Now, this is a pretty random one, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie to you, but this just had to be talked about because it just seems like there's a lack of critical thinking and observational skills going into this one, but that's not really a shock considering the day and age that we're in. But I'm just gonna get right into this one. So, I just happened to be scrolling through TikTok one night, and you know how that always yields some really interesting gems, particularly when it comes to the world of entertainment. And I found a video of a woman talking about one of my favorite childhood movies, Shrek. And I never actually watched those crazy Shrek is love, Shrek is life videos because they weren't about to traumatize and make me dislike this masterpiece, okay? Now, at first, I honestly thought that she was just making a joke or two, or maybe was talking about how the film was a favorite of hers, but no, it was basically to dissect it, even referring to it as a cautionary tale.
I just posted on my Instagram story about how Shrek is not a fairy tale. It's a cautionary tale, an example of how a woman cannot turn an ogre into a man, but he can make an ogre out of you.
And that made me stop in my tracks because in my head, I was like, what could possibly make this film a cautionary tale? Then I started watching the video. And by the time I got to the end, I was super confused, even questioning if we had watched the same movie or set of movies. So in short, this woman was basically trying to say that being with Shrek ruined Fiona. In essence, that's what's said. And she tries to liken their relationship to real life in terms of women finding men that bring out the worst in them and basically derail their life. So at first she's saying that Fiona starts out as a princess and had generational wealth, and because she was stuck up in this castle by herself and the first person she meets is Shrek, who's this moody ogre, over time basically she's saying that Fiona just kind of changes herself because of these reasons and she changes into an ogre.
Because she started as a princess, she had generational wealth, she could have had a pet dragon. And because she was stuck up there, no hobbies, no friends, the first person she meets is this moody ass stubborn ogre that basically negs her. She takes that as a sign to get him to like her, and she falls in love with him.
Number 1, Shrek didn't turn Fiona into an ogre. Fiona was technically already an ogre because she was cursed, and she turned into an ogre every night before she even met Shrek. And second, how the heck did she change herself? All she did was get comfortable enough around him, or Shrek specifically, to show more and more of herself to him. And that's when they started falling in love, so to speak. Then she goes on to say that Fiona had just settled for Shrek when she could have had herself a lord and lived in a castle.
He manages to get a princess to settle for him, an antisocial outcast, lives in a swamp. Isn't he also unemployed? She's thinking, oh my god, I got the loser to love me. Did I mention she lived in a swamp when she could have lived in a castle?
Now, I don't know if y'all remember, but she literally had a whole second chance, even after Shrek had busted into the church to say that he objected, if y'all remember that scene. She had another chance to just be like, yeah, I'm still gonna go with the Lord. So she had that chance to still go ahead and marry Lord Farquaad, but she still chose to be with Shrek because she didn't feel like her true inner self or feel comfortable with Lord Farquaad like she did with Shrek. I don't know if people are just forgetting that part or what. So after this is when this woman says that apparently, according to how she remembers things, that Shrek had made Fiona alienate herself from her family.
Alienates herself from her family to live with him in a swamp.
But last time I checked, they left this girl in a castle. If she didn't want to visit them, then that was because she probably didn't want to. They're not even a thought until they get an invitation in the second movie from her parents to come and visit them in the kingdom of far, far away. And lastly, this point that she tries to make about him not being willing to change anything about himself to be with her.
He's not willing to change anything about himself or the way he lives.
Like, what are you talking about? He was moody, didn't want to be around anyone because people were always treating him like a monster. You would be grumpy too if that was the case for you. But after meeting Fiona and she didn't treat him like some type of monster, he began to let down his guard because the moodiness and nonchalant behavior was really only a defense mechanism if you really want to dissect things. And on top of that, he literally went up to the fairy godmother's little factory in the second film to try to change himself into a human because he thought that's what she wanted. And he was even willing to stay that way if that was the case. But it turns out she just likes him as an ogre. She likes him for who he is. So the comments under this video made it pretty clear that none of these folks really watched these movies, or maybe they had watched them but didn't actually pay attention, because there is just no way we watched the same set of movies. And I have a few creators on TikTok that I usually agree with when it comes to their takes on movies and shows in particular, with Ari the Architect being one of them. And I've used one of her TikToks before in one of my videos here on this channel. But this time around, I was like, girl, are you being serious or are you playing with me? Because this video completely misses the point of all these films.
Okay, I am seeing Shrek in a whole new light. I have always been against the broke boy propaganda trope, and I've always been good at spotting it. But how could I have missed this for 25 years? Definitely go back and watch that creator's video, because she lists so many reasons as to why Fiona ultimately did settle for Shrek. But the most compelling thing that she said was about how Fiona becoming an ogre and how she is now stuck in that body. If she ever wanted to leave Shrek, her dating pool is now extremely limited. That had never even come into my mind before. Now, we all know the reason why Fiona is an ogre full time, because Shrek is her true love. But it really doesn't fully justify the fact that Shrek basically doesn't really sacrifice anything, and Fiona sacrifices everything: her status, her family, her looks. And I know this can be a really shallow way to look at the movie, because the film is all about self-acceptance and what really is true love. And the second movie does try to rectify these holes by way of Shrek turning into a human, because he feels that Fiona deserves better. But it's mostly focused on Shrek's own insecurity and Fiona basically making him feel better about himself. I knew we could analyze Shrek in this way.
Now, I wasn't even sure what this was, but I just found it funny, so I thought I'd include it.
So, Shrek is simply just a black man on the outskirts of society that doesn't really want to fuck with anybody. He's a black man with a farm. That's fine. Donkey is really your black friend where you're like, can you find a chill, please?
Yeah.
Just find a chill. There's always people that, the loud one that's doing too much, like the comedian in the circle where you're like, you know when you go to an almost professional setting and now I'm embarrassed of you.
Yeah.
It's nice when we're at home, but now you've embarrassed me. Fiona is just light skin. Fiona is just light skin, and at night it's more like it's when her natural hair is showing itself, because all she knows is straightener. Her dad is a white passing black man.
Oh.
So he was hiding the fact that he was black this whole time. That's why he was embarrassed of his kid, because he's like, you're showing me out. The ancestors gave her the gene. Yes, thank you. Tandiwe's daughter, whatever she's called. That's what Fiona is. And like, he's like, you're showing me up, because now he's like, oh, like, how am I explaining that I've got this black you? That's kind of fair, but like, she has black hair. And this is why it's a black story. And that's it. And that's why we relate really hard.
But finally, I found some folks who clearly watched the movies with their eyes and ears open, and they actually understood what story was trying to be told here, because clearly people were missing the entire message. What's so funny to me is how in the first video, the woman says that these films that came out when we were younger were basically just made to put out propaganda to get girls and eventually women into not caring about material things. But if
People try to trick women into not caring about material things, but there really is a level that you need to care about when you're going to raise children, okay? Men can go their whole lives sleeping on the floor, but how are you going to raise children in that kind of environment?
If you think about it, this has now turned into propaganda for the whole trophy wife idea, if you really want to talk about it. Because now you're pretty much saying that material things and having a partner that basically could care less about you is a better choice than finding someone who actually cares and is willing to change and make adjustments to make you feel comfortable. I just don't really understand that one. So she's supposed to choose a lord that only wanted her for her looks and to keep his status. Okay, got it. Obviously, there's a level of security that you'll need and also need to have to raise a family if you choose to have kids. But if that ends up being all that you care about and nothing else really seems to matter, you're also going to have a problem on your hands. So then I also saw something in her comments where she says that Shrek resented being a father, and I think that's something else that could be discussed, because I think that people tend to look at parenthood in this one-dimensional type of way. Now, in the third film, Shrek is about to sail out to go and find this Arthur guy because he and Fiona don't want to be king and queen after her dad's passing. And Fiona chooses this moment to share that she's pregnant with Shrek. So naturally, Shrek is terrified because this is his first time being a dad, and on top of that, it doesn't help that his own father, according to him, was planning on eating him during his childhood. But then at the end of the movie, he and Fiona get into their flow of taking care of their kids because they end up having 3. 1 is usually a lot, but 3 is kind of crazy. And by the 4th film, he and Fiona are pretty much exhausted, which is obviously going to happen when becoming a parent and taking care of kids. You're gonna get tired and cranky sometimes. It doesn't mean you automatically resent your family. You just want a break. Because it can be frustrating at times, but you still love your children. But you just want some breathing room every now and again, which is completely understandable.
Shrek is overwhelmed with parenthood. He's got 3 triplet toddlers. All in one thing. Doing a birthday party. We're doing a lot. He's overwhelmed. He was so used to it just being Fiona and him.
Now, don't get me wrong, there are obviously people who feel this way and actually resent having their children. But Shrek ends up not being one of them, because after he gets to live another version of his life where he's alone, thanks to a deal he makes with Rumpelstiltskin, he quickly realizes that he really wants his family, and when Rumpelstiltskin had found him, he really was just in a very vulnerable place. He had just left a super overstimulating kids party, nothing seemed to be going right, and he just snaps. So this was of course the perfect time to dangle the whole other life offer in Shrek's face.
Rumpelstiltskin takes over his life. Fiona has broken free from the castle. She's her own warrior princess with the ogres. All of this to say that Shrek realized he made a mistake. And that at the end of the day, he wants his family. He wants to be with Fiona. He wants Farkle, Fergus, and Felicity. Okay? He wants all 3 of his kids. He wants Donkey back. He wants Puss in Boots back. He wants all of his friends back. Because in the world that Rumpelstiltskin started over for him, it's absolute chaos. All of that to say, their love was so strong that even in the fake world that Rumpelstiltskin had placed on Shrek, him and Fiona still had that chemistry no matter what. And he realized how blessed he was. So no, Fiona didn't just become an ogre, just, to be with Shrek. She became her true self. And in turn, Shrek became somebody who could trust another person, not just another person, the person he loved. Thank you.
So yeah, it was chaotic for him and Fiona with 3 kids, or ogre babies, but in the end, he learns to roll with the punches and takes the good that comes with it. So I think overall it's pretty clear that this woman watched the film or films but didn't actually watch them. Why people these days are applying such adult themes to movies such as relationships and marriages, especially when it comes to kids movies, I don't really understand. Like, don't try to ruin this nostalgia for people. Please, find something else to do. But this was kind of fun, so I secretly hope I come across some more videos like this for us to talk about here on the channel. It was annoying, but fun, So you guys could, of course, let me know what your thoughts are on this one. Obviously, we're just talking about Shrek that was just meant to be like a fairy tale, not that serious type of movie or set of movies. But when you start like applying these types of themes, it's like, okay, if you want to go there, we can go there. We could really talk about it, because clearly you didn't really watch the movie with your eyes and ears open, But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one.